Thanks so much for being with us tonight. Hopefully my system's going to work. Oops, there we go. The session is due to last about 90 minutes, and of course there'll be plenty of opportunity to ask questions throughout, as I say, by the chat facility. Of course, there's always a very real sensitivity when we're exploring legacy and wills. There's a financial benefit, obviously, which has to be weighed against the sense of loss and grief, which people may feel for a very long time. And so it's vital that as churches we look to draw alongside people correctly. I'm delighted to say that in a few minutes, my colleague Sophie Hodge, the Diocesan Stewardship Enabler, and the Church of England's Deputy National Giving Advisor, Helena Stead, will be on hand to provide that oversight. But just to give you a quick idea of the flow of the evening, in essence, we'll be considering two main questions. Why is legacy giving important? And what is Legacy Sunday? Within that, there'll be opportunity to hear from a number of churches that have benefited. There'll also be further information around the Fair Will Partnership and the free online will offering, and we'll look to answer as many questions as possible. But first, we're going to be led in prayers, and I'm delighted to say that Beth Smith, who's Treasurer of St Elizabeth's Harrowby, should be with us. Beth, are you there? Hello, Beth.
Hello, yes, I'm here.
Hi.
Okay. So I'll begin with reading a passage from the Acts of the Apostles, chapter 2. Those who welcomed Jesus's message were baptized, and that day about 3,000 persons were added. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and fellowship, to the breaking of bread and the prayers. Awe came upon everyone, because many wonders and signs were being done through the apostles. All who believed were together and had all things in common. They would sell their possessions and goods and distribute the proceeds to all as any had need. Day by day, as they spent much time together in the temple, they broke bread at home and ate their food with glad and generous hearts, praising God and having the goodwill of all the people. And day by day, the Lord added to their number those who were being saved. So let us pray. Generous God, we thank you for all the blessings you shower upon us. From you, we receive everything, all that we are and all that we have, the love of family and friends, and the precious gift of faith. In deep gratitude, may we be generous in sharing money and possessions for the sake of the gospel. May we have the courage to leave legacies to help finance the mission of your church. May we have the confidence to pass on to others our love of Jesus and encourage them to be generous too. And so we bring ourselves before you with cheerfulness and a joyful heart. Grant that we may offer ourselves in openness, so that our discussions this evening are in the truth of the gospel. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thanks so much, Beth. Now, to start off, we thought it would be really helpful if you heard how churches in our diocese have benefited from legacy giving. And Sophie and I had the real joy of spending time with people at St Andrew's Sedbergh recently, and this is their story.
Hi, I'm Sophie Hodge, the Stewardship Enabler for the Diocese of Carlisle. I'm here at St Andrew's Church, Sedbergh, to find out more about how this church and congregation has directly benefited from legacy giving. And hopefully we can encourage other churches to consider how that form of giving could support them too. And I might even be able to grab a sneaky coffee inside too.
Hello, very good to see you again. Good to see you.
Thanks so much for having me this morning.
Well, thank you.
So Martin, could you tell us a bit about some of the legacies you've received here at St Andrews?
Generally, the legacies we've received have made absolutely all the difference to the finances of the church. The truth is that this church, actually this parish, which is 6 churches, we can't meet our expenses, including the cost of running a full-time vicar, from our regular donations and from our fundraising activities. And therefore legacies make all the difference, one, to paying the bills, and secondly to actually having the cash flow to make the payments when the payments fall due.
And, how many legacy gifts have you received here? Kind of what sort of size have they been?
We've had a couple of enormous legacies in tens of thousands of pounds, which have actually kept the church going well before COVID and actually right through COVID, when income fell right away. But of course the cost didn't fall much at all. But we've had some very generous smaller legacies. Perhaps we've had I think maybe about 10 in the time that I've been involved in the last 3 years. And I think the thing is to say is that these smaller legacies are really just as important as the bigger legacies. And an accumulation of smaller ones we can see adds up and makes all the difference.
What would you say to churches who are considering whether or not to think about promoting legacy giving and whether to take part in Legacy Sunday?
Most churches are unable to meet their expenses just from their income, and it's legacies that make the difference. And the other thing to mention is that most of these churches are, well, actually many of them are Grade 1 listed buildings, and we have a duty as a PCC to keep them in good nick, and regular maintenance is important, and the money from that's really all going to come from legacies or from specific donations during people's lifetime. But legacies, certainly in my experience in Sedbergh, are the difference between having the money to pay the bills and not having it.
Legacies aren't rare or mythical. Every year, churches in the Diocese of Carlisle receive on average over £1 million through gifts in wills, representing over 80 donations, so it's a significant part of the local church economy. So how can you get involved? Well, there are 3 easy ways. 1. Designate someone to come to our Legacy online training on Thursday the 16th of March. To register, email the address on the screen. 2. Plan a Legacy Sunday during Legacy Week, Sunday the 23rd of April or Sunday the 30th of April. Or 3. Visit the stewardship section on the Carlisle Diocese website for more information and to sign up for legacy resources and support. Thank you for watching.
Lovely. Oh, go on.
Yeah, over to you, Eleanor.
Super. Thank you. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Eleanor Stead. I am the Deputy National Giving Advisor for the Church of England. My role is to help and support parishes and dioceses with encouraging all areas of giving, and specifically legacy giving and capital fundraising and appeals. So really, I'm just going to talk a bit about legacies in the church, and then hand over to Sophie to talk a bit more about the theology and the mission behind legacies and writing a will. So what is a legacy? I mean, essentially, it's an amount of money or property left to someone in a will. We also talk about the legacy of a person, most recently the late Queen. But lots of people describe legacies in different ways. Ultimately, for me, legacies are a gift. They're a gift that somebody leaves, an incredibly generous gift, often the largest gift an individual makes in their lifetime. And there's often no acknowledgement, no thank you, and they're not around to see the impact that it has. So I love this quote, generic Greek proverb: "Those who plant trees, knowing that only others will enjoy its shade." It's a good example of what a legacy is. It's a very generous, very philanthropic gift. So there are different types of gifts. People can leave cash, or people can leave percentages of estates. So we call those pecuniary and residuary legacies. The majority, around 80% of gifts left to our parish churches, are cash gifts. So they're very simple to administer. But obviously the percentages of the estates are the larger sized gifts that we see coming through wills. So next slide, please, Dave. So why are we encouraging you to promote legacies and gifts and wills? Quite often people think, oh gosh, death, money and taxes, how depressing. But it's not. Legacies are an incredible opportunity for our parish churches, particularly a financial opportunity for future sustainability. So gifts and wills, they're worth around £60 million to parish churches per annum. They're an extremely important source of income for our churches, but also for charities. For charities, it's around £3 billion per annum. So huge sums of money which are coming into our parish churches, which are coming into the charity sector, and they're usually used as seed funding or catalysts for financing one-off church projects. And as major sources of funding start to dry up, legacies really are where churches look to get some of those big projects off the ground. So a financial opportunity, but also a really important part of our Christian giving. Like I said, it's a gift. It's just another way to give. When it's very difficult to convince somebody to leave a legacy because it's such a large gift. But for a lot of people, perhaps they're cash poor but asset rich, or they just like the idea of leaving some part of themselves, or they've got a really close attachment to that particular cause. People choose to leave a legacy. So whenever we're talking about giving, generosity, we're talking about one-off, regular, we're also talking about legacies. They're not separate. So there's lots of opportunities to talk about legacies and to make them become more of the norm. Legacies, I should say, are usually a culmination of a lifetime's worth of support. So often people will support a charitable cause their entire lives. Now then, that doesn't necessarily mean to say that all of your members will leave legacies. Often churches will say to me, well, we didn't have any clue who they were. And I'll say, well, you didn't know them, but they knew you. You were important to them. And it might be that they just walked past the church every day, or they had a particularly special service. You see a lot of hatchings, matchings and dispatchings as a reason for people leaving legacies. The church has a really sentimental, emotional role in their past, in their history. They're very nostalgic. So huge audiences that we're talking to for legacies. Legacies are life affirming. They're about the life of the individual, as I mentioned. They're only activated when the person dies. So when we're talking to individuals about legacies, you know, it's no good ambulance chasing. It's no good talking to people at the funeral. It's too late. They're only activated by death. So we want to talk to people about legacies when they're alive, because they are their living wishes. And then finally, when we are talking to people about legacies and their living wishes, it's very gentle. We're not chugging on the street. We're not knocking on people's doors. We're very much just saying, look, we are a charity. Did you know we're a charity? We welcome legacies. We see legacies. We see gifts and wills as an incredible way to support our church, an incredible act of generosity. And if you'd like to find out more, here's how you go about it. Most people, I'd say 99% of people, contact me because they just want the information. They just want to know, is a church a charity? Will it be void of inheritance tax? And what is the proper wording? Those are the three main inquiries I get. Nobody's going, oh, I don't know if I should leave a legacy. They know they want to leave the legacy to the church. So legacy fundraising is very much just about saying, here's the information, off you go. Next slide, please, Dave. And then just to demonstrate really the impact of legacy giving, why we should be encouraging it. As you can see, huge sums of money are coming into charities every year through legacies. So for Cancer Research UK, you know, that's nearly 200 million a year, huge sums of money. And quite often it will be 50–60% of their total voluntary income. So really dependent on legacies. For the Church of England, as you can see, we're not so dependent on legacies. It's around 7% of our total voluntary income. 60 million is not bad at all when we compare to other charities. But there's a huge opportunity to improve this correlation, because a lot of our members would probably like to hear about leaving a legacy. I'd also say all of those members there in that who are giving regularly, nearly 800 million to all of our parish churches, they're probably leaving legacies to these other charities. So it's not about saying, don't leave it to them. It's about saying, oh, look, you're incredibly generous. You're leaving a legacy. On average, people leave 3 legacies in their wills. So saying, just did you know that you can also leave to your church as well as these other incredible charities? So I just show this slide because I think it's a really encouraging slide. It shows there's a huge opportunity to grow this income and really strengthen that correlation between individuals giving regularly, individuals who are already incredibly philanthropic, they're supporting other charities, and those who might actually go on to leave a legacy to your parish church. Thanks, Dave.
Okay, so I'm in my kind of comfortable stewardship spot now, thinking about the faith perspective when it comes to legacy giving, and why should this be of particular interest for us as people of faith. So next slide, please. This slide I've actually stolen straight from a presentation that I usually give to PCCs when we're talking about stewardship, but actually I thought it was really relevant tonight as well. So why should we be concerned as Christians about legacy giving? Well, legacy giving is part of our wider generosity, and as we know as Christians, generosity should be one of the hallmarks of us as people of faith. I was really struck by the Bible passage that Beth Smith read us, because it's such a radical and amazing picture of generosity, and that's obviously what we're called to be as Christians. But why is generosity central to our faith? Well, generosity is based in the character of God. We have an extravagantly generous God. Everything we have is a gift from God. I usually say at this point that I've become particularly aware of this since having my daughter. My daughter's 2.5. She's been really hard work tonight, so she feels a little bit less of a gift tonight. But generally, since Liza was born, I've been very aware of what an amazing gift she is. But actually, everything we have is a gift. So you will have your wider families, but the air that we breathe, the day that we've had today, I don't know if you've had a good day or a tough day, but it's a gift from God. Our church families, our homes, our financial resources, our beautiful creation here in Cumbria, everything we have is a gift from God, and that obviously culminates in Jesus Christ and the promise of eternal life. And so as Christians, we're called to give our whole lives back to God, and that's obviously the call of discipleship. And so legacy giving just kind of falls under that banner of generosity, and part of our generous walk with God. Next slide. I tried to change the slide, then it didn't work. I thought this was really interesting, actually, but legacy giving is also part of our general stewardship that hopefully we've been exercising over our resources our entire lives, but it's something that we've got a long heritage of as the church. So this is taken from the Common Book of Prayer, Book of Common Prayer, 1662 edition. Sorry, getting tripped up there. And it says, "Let him then be admonished to make his will, for the better discharging of his conscience and the quietness of his executors, men should often be put in remembrance to take order of the settling of their temporal estates while they are in health." So a long part of our Christian tradition encouraging us to be good stewards of all of our resources. I think it's really good common sense that actually is just as relevant today as it was in 1662, for the better discharging of his conscience. I'm sure we all have people and causes in our lives that we feel a sense of responsibility for, and so actually making a will is part of us having a kind of clear conscience that actually we have provided for those people after our death. For the quietness of his executors, I don't know about you, but in my own family, I have examples of when sadly people have died, but actually they haven't had a proper will. And so I know firsthand how much stress and anxiety it can cause wider family not having a will in place. And I'm sure other people on this call will have had that experience as well. and men should often be put in remembrance to take order of the settling of their temporal estates while they were in health. And that reiterates what Eleanor said. This is something that we want to talk about with people now, because it's actually a way of celebrating who they are, what their passions are, and the legacy that they want to leave. But it's interesting that despite all of that, and despite how kind of common sense that good advice is, 54% of adults in the UK don't have a will. So if you're walking down the street, over half the adults you see will not have a will. In the Church of England, we're slightly better actually. So only 30% of Anglicans don't have a will, but that's still a third of our worshipping communities who might not have made a will. So definitely an opportunity to talk to them about it. Next slide, please. And finally, it's a lifeline for our mission. So we heard a story from Sedba where they were talking about what a lifeline legacy giving has been to them. And as I've been trying to kind of promote Legacy Sunday and start talking to churches about Legacy Sundays, I've been really struck actually by how passionate treasurers have been about legacy giving. It's kind of been taken me by surprise a bit, but actually I've heard time and time again treasurers telling me that actually legacy giving is what has been the real lifeline for their church. So it's been the thing that's enabled them to do that building project or that repair project or that big reordering project, and they wouldn't have had a hope without legacy giving. In some cases they've employed family workers or youth workers maybe as a group of churches, but it was the legacy that provided that initial funding to get that off the ground. And in lots of cases, treasurers have told me, actually, it's what's just kept the church ticking over. It's what's paid their building insurance and their fuel and their ministry offer. But actually, that's really important as well, because that's what's enabling that church to continue being a worshipping presence in that community. So actually, in lots of ways, legacy giving has been a lifeline to many of the people I've spoken to. And again, if we as Christians are serious about the mission of our church, then actually legacy giving is a really good way to support that. Next slide, Dave. And yet, despite all of that goodness that we've talked about, only 15% of Anglicans have ever been asked to support their church by legacy giving. Only 15% of Anglicans have ever been asked to support their church by leaving a legacy. So just reiterating the message that Eleanor was showing with that bar chart, there is a huge opportunity here to improve that and to make a difference and to see the difference that makes. Thanks, Dave.
Great, thanks so much, Sophie. So, as I said earlier, we think it's really important this evening that you hear from churches who've benefited from legacy giving. And so I'm delighted to say that we're joined now by the Reverend Canon Elaine Bates, who's Associate Priest at St Paul's Barrow, a church which has directly benefited from this giving. And I'm just going to pause the screen share at this point. So hopefully, Elaine, because I can't see everyone, so hopefully Elaine's there.
Yes, I'm there, Dave.
Hi, good to see you again. Elaine, can you just begin by explaining how your legacy came about?
Yes, I took a funeral in summer 2019 of a gentleman that I'd never met. He had been the managing director of the shipyard in Barrow and quite an interesting man. And throughout his life, whether at work or in his family life or with friends, he'd been quietly spotting needs. And it might be encouraging somebody with developing as an engineer in the shipyard, or it might be a family friend who just needed a little bit of help in some way. Or later on, when he'd retired, it might be that he'd bake them a cake or something like that. I didn't know him, but I got to know about him when I took the funeral, and he was really, really beautiful. But then 6 months later, to our huge surprise, we received a legacy of £20,000 from this gentleman. He didn't go to church. His wife went occasionally, and he'd really appreciated the support and the friendship that his wife got from the church. So there we were with this lovely sum of money.
Brilliant. And what did it mean for you to get that sum of money?
Well, it came in April 2020. And initially we thought, oh, what can we do with this? What missional, project, or can we use it to employ someone? But of course, it was just at the start of the pandemic lockdown, and time went on and time went on, and our giving went down and down. And actually, we used it so that year and the next year, we didn't have to go into a deficit. And I just see it as a huge blessing from this man who had spent his life spotting needs and quietly getting on with providing them. I mean, he couldn't have known that, but for us, it was just such a blessing from God through this man.
How's it made you think more about generosity through legacy giving as a church as a result?
I think because of the pandemic, I don't think people are as aware as they have been when we've occasionally had legacies previously. I think the PCC in particular are very aware of the difference that it's made. And we've talked about it, and particularly at the APCM, saying, thanks to that legacy, we haven't had a deficit this year, the 2020 and 2021. But as a leadership team, we've thought, actually, we need to do something more about encouraging people. Actually, we've benefited from somebody who wasn't part of the church, and there are some very generous people within the church who perhaps we can encourage during Legacy Week to think a little bit more about whether they might make a legacy in their wills.
I know we're about to come on to Legacy Sunday in the next part of the presentation, Elaine, but are you as a church consciously looking to engage with Legacy Sunday?
Yes, we are. Yes, most definitely. Having seen a little bit about it, and having spoken to Sophie in light of this particular conversation, it's really on our radar. So I'm really hoping that we can do something one of the 2 Sundays.
Brilliant. Really appreciate your time, Elaine. And with that, it's back to Sophie, I think, who's actually going to pick up with some more details around Legacy Sunday, and I'll just share the screen again.
Great. Thank you very much for that, Elaine. That was really, really encouraging. Okay, so the next bit of hopefully we've persuaded you all now that legacies are worthwhile, and I'm always really conscious of how busy our churches and our treasurers and our PCCs are. So I don't recommend things lightly, but hopefully we've persuaded you that legacy giving is a worthwhile endeavour to embark on. What I'm going to do now is hopefully take you through some really practical things. So we've talked about Legacy Week and Legacy Sunday. The intention of this next part of the presentation is to just show you what that looks like, how you can actually look at this as a church. Okay, so 4 steps. First one is designate a Sunday as Legacy Sunday. We're recommending the 23rd of April or the 30th of April. I'm anticipating that one of the first questions we get will be, does it have to be those dates? And the answer, of course, is no. You can choose whatever Sunday you want to be Legacy Sunday. We feel like it's really helpful to have a focus of this energy, and obviously it helps people to actually take action and to commit to a date. But if it doesn't work for you, you can choose a different Sunday. That's no problem at all. There are a couple of things that are slightly time bound. So Eleanor is going to share with you shortly on some free wills that we have available to give away as part of our legacy push. That's kind of got a time boundness about it. And we are also, we can't guarantee it, but we are endeavouring to provide visiting speakers to churches on Legacy Sunday, should they so wish, and that will be a kind of time bound thing to these 2 Sundays. But apart from that, you are free to pick a different Sunday if you need to. So the second action that we would really encourage you to do is order free online literature via the Carlisle Diocese website. I'm going to tell you more about how to do that in a minute, but the National Church have produced loads of really helpful leaflets around legacy giving that just deals with the practical questions that Eleanor was alluding to. So we really recommend, if you do nothing else for Legacy Sunday, go online and order some of our legacy literature, because that's one of the most practical and powerful things you can do. The third action would be to use our Sunday morning resources. So we wanted to make this as straightforward for you as possible to engage with. So we've actually put together resources that you can use on your Sunday morning so that it's as easy as possible for you to run a Legacy Sunday. And I'll come back to them in a minute as well. And then finally, promote the free online wills through Fairwill using the Carlisle Diocese voucher. So we have, I think it's 25 wills that we can give away during this legacy push. So we really encourage you to share that far and wide with your churches and networks. And Eleanor will explain how that works later on. Next slide. Okay, so elements of a Legacy Sunday, what actually does it look like? You don't have to do all of these things, so you can pick and mix depending on, you know, how much time you've got or whatever. Obviously, the more of them that you do, potentially the more effective your Legacy Sunday will be. But the first thing we'd say is you want it to be a legacy themed Sunday service. So we want people to know that that's, you know, what we're doing, so that it's not so subtle that they miss the fact that they're doing that. And hopefully the Sunday morning resources that we've produced will help do that in a really sensitive and gentle way. The second element is stories of how legacies have made a difference to your church. I think for me, I'm sure, like you, I really was inspired by hearing what Elaine had to say, and that kind of actually was more powerful than anything that me and Eleanor shared in terms of the statistics around legacies and how much legacy giving is, because stories are so powerful. And I thought the same from the treasurer at Sedbergh as well. And so actually have a think about your church. In the last 10 years or so, has your church received a legacy? And if it has, try and find out what you spent it on as a church, and tell people about that on Legacy Sunday, because actually it's the stories that make a real difference. If you don't have a story from your church, perhaps your church hasn't yet received a legacy gift, we have actually put together a video that you can show on your Sunday morning. So the video is not the one that we showed this morning from Sedbergh. Dave and I also, we were doing a bit of a legacy road trip. We went out to the West Coast and met with a really small church on the West Coast, but they had also been really blessed by legacies, and it had made a real difference to them. So we've made a short 1-minute film from them, and that's on our website as well, so you can show that on a Sunday morning if you don't have your own story. Legacy literature, that's the thing I mentioned earlier. The idea is that you would order enough copies, as I say, they're free, of leaflets to just have out at prominent places. Eleanor said before that legacy fundraising is quite a gentle form of fundraising. It's quite different to doing stewardship. So if I've done stewardship with any of your PCCs, you'll know that I encourage you to write letters to all of your church members, and it's a much more direct kind of ask, whereas legacy giving is generally much more gentle. So actually just having piles of leaflets out that people can just take, and of course you can leave them out beyond Legacy Sunday. It doesn't have to be just for that week. And then finally, you just want people to know how to leave a gift. If they're really inspired by what they hear on a Sunday morning, make sure that they know how to put that into action. So it might be that you want to signpost the leaflets that are on display because they have the wording for leaving a gift to your local church in. It might be that you produce some information about Fairwill. It might be that there's someone who they can talk to if they've got some basic questions, perhaps your treasurer, but just make sure that people leave church knowing if they do want to leave a gift in their will to church, this is how you do it. So as I say, those are the elements of a Legacy Sunday that we're suggesting. You don't have to do all of them, but the more you do, perhaps the more impact it will have. Next slide. So I've told you that you can find all of these resources on our website. So I'm just going to quickly, this looks a little bit like it's been scribbled over by my toddler. I apologise for my very shaky drawing of arrows there, but these are screenshots taken from our website. So that top left-hand picture with the very smiley Bishop James, that's the front page of the Carlisle Diocese website. Well worth taking a look at the website if you've not been on for a while. If you go onto the Carlisle Diocese homepage, you can see I've circled a green circle around clergy and parishes. Click on that, and then it will take you through to that second picture. And you can see on the top right hand corner of that little matrix of different things you can click on, it says for stewardship promoters. So click on that for stewardship promoters, and then you'll have all of those squares pop up with different aspects of stewardship on, and you can see I've circled legacy giving there. It's next to the generosity week icon, so click on that. Alternatively, you can see there's a little search button in the top right hand corner of the screen with a magnifying glass. You can click on that and then type in legacy giving, and that should take you to the same place. So that's really the go-to for everything that we're talking about today. Great. Legacy Sunday, the Sunday themed resources. Now, we've been working flat out to try and get everything together for this evening, but we've got all of the Sunday resources, but they're not actually on the website right now, but they're going to be tomorrow morning. So if you're looking at the website as we speak, you won't see the Sunday resources there, but they will be there by lunchtime tomorrow. So what have we got in terms of the Sunday themed resources? We've got orders of service. So you can just print these off and run with them, or you can edit them and kind of adapt them to make them your own. But we have a couple of different options. We've got the service of the word, and we've got a Eucharistic version. And as I say, some of them are PDFs and you can just print them off and go with them. Or if you want to lift certain elements out of it and kind of mix it with your own kind of orders of service, you can do that. You're very welcome to do that. But hopefully that's just a practical resource that will help you put together a Sunday service. We recommend that you have a preach that is sensitive to the topic of legacy giving. So as I say, if you want a visiting speaker just to make it feel a bit more of an event, you're welcome to ask us. We can't obviously guarantee a speaker for every church in the diocese, but we will do our best. So do email stewardship@Carlisle Diocese. The sooner you can do that, the easier it will be for us to plan. But we've also got a preaching template as well. It's a really short but really lovely preaching template. So again, it's in Word. So it might be that actually you want to use it as it is and you don't feel you need to make any changes. And if that's the case, run with it. That's brilliant. Others of you might not feel comfortable doing that because you might want to really make it your own. That's lovely as well. Either just read it as a source of inspiration or maybe use it as a springboard and kind of adapt it. It's in Word, so you can chop and change and copy and paste bits and really make it your own. But I was very grateful. John Thompson put together the preaching template, and I was very grateful to him because I must admit, when I first thought about a preach that was sensitive to legacy giving, I was like, goodness, what would that look like? But John's done a really good job at putting something together that I think really hits the spot on that. And then finally, I mentioned that we recommend you share a story. And like I said before, ideally that would be from your own church. But if you don't have one from your own church, there'll be the video there from the West Cumbrian Church. So those resources will be going up tomorrow. So do check that out. From the same part of the website, you can also order these leaflets, which I say they're free of charge. So you can order, 30, 40, however many you want. And, by all means, keep them in your church beyond Legacy Sunday. These are the 5 main resources that we're kind of pointing people to. The one that I really want to kind of recommend is the one on the far left-hand side. It says how you can make a lasting difference leaflet. that really deals with the practical stuff. And like Eleanor said, 9 times out of 10, what people want is the kind of practical questions answered. What's the wording I need to take to my solicitors? And that leaflet has just the practical things that you need to know. It's a short leaflet, but it's got the wording in there. It answers the basic questions. So if you just wanted to order one thing, my recommendation would be to order that leaflet on the far left-hand side. The next one, Gifts of Faith, Hope and Love, that has all the practical information in that was in the previous leaflet, but it also has a bit more in-depth stuff around the theology of leaving a gift. I think it's got stuff around the Book of Common Prayer that I talked about earlier. So it's a bit more in-depth. It's a longer booklet, but if people want a bit more information, that's available. Why Every Christian Should Have a Will is a kind of frequently asked questions kind of booklet. Preparing to visit your solicitor, that's not pretty, it's very pragmatic. It's just taking people through this is the sort of information that you probably want to have thought about and have written down at the point you go and visit your solicitor. So that's a very practical document to be able to share with people. And then finally, the legacy bookmarks have no practical information on them at all, but they're just a really nice prompt to remind people that leaving a gift is something they might want to think about. So that's the literature that's available. It's all free, and you can order it from our website. Next slide, please. The nice thing about the literature is that it is a very gentle and easy way of broadening your scope of your Legacy Sunday beyond just your worshipping community, because actually if you've got stuff on display, you're automatically reaching more people. So Eleanor mentioned that actually often church legacies come from people who've used your churches for christenings, weddings and funerals. So actually having stuff out then is helpful. You'll have church users, maybe groups, local groups that come and use your hall for various reasons. Visitors and tourists, that's obviously a key audience for us here in Cumbria. Local residents, there's all sorts of people engaging with your church, and actually just having leaflets out when they're visiting the church might prompt a gift. So it's worth doing. And with that in mind, I would say it might be worth just thinking, is there anything else that I can do to share the idea of legacy giving with some of these audiences? So like Eleanor said, we're not going for direct asks, we're not writing letters directly to people, but perhaps there's something gentle that we can do to put legacy giving to your church on their radar. So maybe a letter in a parish magazine or something like that. I think a key barrier to people leaving a gift in their will to local church is that they don't realise that the local church is a charity and that they can do that. So yeah, as I say, just think about if there's any gentle ways that you might want to reach your wider community, perhaps through your parish magazine or such like. Great, I'll hand over to Eleanor.
Super, thanks Sophie, so much information. Absolutely, just to follow on from what Sophie said, the beautiful thing about Legacy Sunday is that actually you could just build on it year on year. With Legacies, it's just about laying the foundations and then every year just thinking, oh, well, we're talking about giving here, so can we talk about legacies here? And it will grow, awareness will grow, and Legacies will become a normal fundraising stream. That's what we find with most churches who sort of 5-6 years down the line have been promoting Legacies. Okay, so I'm going to talk about Fair Will. So the Fair Will are an online specialist organisation. They were voted best rated on Trustpilot, and I've been asked by parishes for well over a decade now, I think, could we have a free online or free will writing offer, basically. Most charities have them. Why don't we have them? So I've finally done it. I've got you on. Here it is. Because of the pandemic, it obviously made sense to go online, and actually online has proved to be incredibly successful. So we finally have it. I've secured the budget for 3 years to fund free wills for all parish churches. So please use it and please make the most of it, because the more wills and legacies that are written and left through this, more likely I can justify continuing it. But it's just such a great offering to have, particularly for those individuals who are potentially writing their first wills, So like I said, hatchings and matchings, they're a perfect opportunity when people write their will. Writing a will is a really important part of stewardship. So even if you don't leave a legacy, actually recognising that the church is there supporting good financial stewardship as part of will writing is so important to me. So we've partnered with them. It's been running for about 2 years now. We have a unique tailored process which is specific to the Church of England. So it's a really unique opportunity because, like you can see the sort of screenshot here, it actually asks you, would you like to leave a gift to your church? So the first like the biggest motivator for people leaving a legacy is hearing about a legacy being left, being inspired by that amazing story from Elaine. The second one is just being prompted when you're writing your will. So we're finding that 1 in 4 people who write their wills through Fair Will end up leaving a legacy. So it's a really tailored, unique experience for the individual, and it's linked to a church near you. So an individual clicks yes or no, I would like to think.
Can you all hear me okay? Yeah, okay. Sorry, my microphone has just died. No longer Madonna. That's okay. And then you click on the Find Your Church, and then it will search the church near you database to come up with the correct church based on the church name, the parish, and or the church and the postcode. So the voucher code you've got is Carlisle-Diocese. Nice and easy to remember. As Sophie mentioned, you've got 25 free wills, but I mean, those wills won't run out. There's not kind of a ticker or a timer on the code. So if you can go beyond 25 wills, excellent, happy for you to have them. But it is good to be able to sort of emphasize that this is a time limited opportunity. We've got X number of wills for all of the dioceses. So we want to make the most of Legacy Sundays we can. So Fair Will, when you're writing your will online, it is for a simple will, and for any free will writing service, it's always for a simple will. So if you have a complex estate, it's not going to be the most appropriate process or avenue for you. Also, because of the complexity of parochial church councils, we don't offer telephone wills through Fair Will, although they do them. But it's just about saying, look, we're trying to help here, we're trying to support, we believe this is important, and we've put X amount of money behind it to be able to encourage people to write their wills and to consider the difference a legacy could make. So it's certainly a free offering, it's a new talking point if you've promoted legacies already, and it's an opportunity to engage, particularly with younger people. The majority of people who write their wills through Fair Will with our Church of England codes are between 46 and 60, but they're still leaving legacies. We just hit 1 million in income in less than 2 years, and that's additional legacies and additional wills. So I'd really encourage you to think about this. Next slide, please. Super. Okay, so like I say, online will writing with Fair Will, it's easy, it's safe, it's legal, it's quick. We've been running for 2 years. We've had no contentious probate, we've had no concerns or issues. Like I said, it's a tailored approach. So you've got 2 asks there. So it asks you once when you're doing the residuary part of your estate or the percentages of your estate, and then it asks you again when you're looking at your chattels and you're thinking about your cash. So not only is it asking you once if you want to include a gift to your church, it asks you twice. And like I said, 1 in 4 wills written, we've found somebody is leaving and including a legacy to a parish church. We've received over £1 million now. And what is really amazing with this is that 97% are residuary legacies. So 97% are percentages of estates. The average gift size is £17,000. When we look at the data for legacies normally, it's only 20% of residuary legacies, and the average size is 3,000. So the churches that are benefiting and participating and promoting Fair Will are seeing much larger legacies that are going to be coming through. So it's not only securing new financial income, it's larger financial income. So it's really encouraging. Let me keep going. So how can you promote Fair Will? Well, it's online, it's a web link. So the most obvious place is on your church website. So I've included, again, you're sending the PowerPoint, so I'm not going to go through it point by point, but we've got a whole Free Wills, Fair Will partnership page on our Church of England Legacy website. So you can literally copy and paste the content there. Or you can just, if you've got a giving page and you've got, Legacies as a subtitle, talk about why legacies are important, include a case study or a little quote if you've got something about the difference that legacies have made, and then just say, we offer free wills. Here's a link to the and there it is. It's www.fairwill.com/Carlisle-diocese. I think emphasising that it's a time limited offer, whether that's as part of your Legacy Sunday campaign or if you're doing any sort of communications. People love a bargain. People love to know that they're making the most of the opportunity. So, like I said, I'm not going to stop somebody from writing their will or leaving a legacy because they've, your 25 wills are up. But people do, we found it to be more effective if it's emphasised as time limited. And like I say, if you can just include an inspiring quote there or something exciting about, sorry, not exciting, inspiring about generosity and legacies, then people, when they click on that link, when they get to the legacy point, they are more likely to leave a legacy. It's totally fine if they don't. We're not going to, you're not going to get to the end of the process and, the voucher code won't be valid because you haven't left a legacy. And equally, if there's anybody in your PCC or anybody in your church that wants to try Fair Will for themselves, to rewrite their will or update their will or even write their first will, go for it. You are a member of the church. These wills are there for church members. We believe that writing a will is a really important part of stewardship. So if you want to give it a go for it. So there's some top tips there. I won't go into a lot of detail, but it's great to just sort of make the most of this. So I've just got one question. How can we check that our church is on the list? We have a small church which is part of a larger benefice. So I'm a bit anxious that we could be bypassed by the main benefice church. So in terms of reporting, we don't sort of get, we're not told who's been left a legacy. We just get told when a voucher code has been used. So the voucher code, we'll say you had 5 wills written through Carlisle Diocese and one of them included a legacy. It was residuary or it was pecuniary and it was for X amount. And that's all the information we get.
Eleanor, I think they're concerned that if they use Fair Will and someone tries to search for their church won't come up on the list because they're too small.
Oh, no.
I think that's my understanding of the question.
Sorry, yeah, I got you. Well, it will because it's church folk. The search function is church, not parish. So the individual, if the person types in the name of the church will come up. And also the Fair Will team, the legal team check every will that comes through. So if you've got any queries or questions, if you've got a particular concern about your church, you can drop Sophie an email and I can pass it across to the legal team and I can say, look, if any churches are coming up with these names, can you do a quick sense check if there's any concerns coming through? But like I say, we've been running for 2 years. We've had over 500 wills written and we've got £1 million in income. I haven't had that happen yet. The
other thing we can do is check that the church is on a church near you, because then as long as the church is on a church near you, it will pull through, I assume, into the Fair Will thing. So we can check that. If you want to give me the name of your church and parish, I can triple check that it's on a church near you, but I'm sure it will be. Yeah.
And also just making any information you're promoting clear about making sure that the church name or, the proper receiving body for legacies to benefit your church. But every church is on a church near you, so I can't imagine it would get lost. Okay, hope that helps. So that's it really. In terms of legacies, will writing, and the Legacy Sunday on the Fair Will offering. I just thought before the questions section, I'd answer the frequently answered questions because they usually what come up. All parochial church councils have charitable status. Therefore, all legacies that are received by parish churches will be inheritance tax free. So all charitable gifts left to PCCs are exempt. The proper receiving body for any legacy is the parochial church council. It's not the vicar and church warden. And you'll only have a registered charity number if your parish income exceeds 100,000. So if your parish income doesn't exceed 100,000, you still have charitable status, but you don't have a registered charity number. I say that is 97% of my inquiries. So if somebody's saying, well, you can't be a charity because you don't have a registered charity number, well, you do. You hold charitable status, you're just exempt from registering with the Charity Commission because your annual parish income is below the threshold. Does that make sense? I say this so many times, it just makes sense in my head, but I appreciate. If you've got any questions, you want me to repeat that, then that's fine. Obviously, inheritance tax is the reduction when somebody leaves a legacy is a big motivator, particularly if people have multiple assets. So if you're in a particular area or you think, well, that's definitely going to apply to a lot of people who are leaving legacies, it's going to be a real motivator. It might be worth highlighting that if a person includes 10% of their estate to charities or a charity, then the inheritance tax paid reduces from 40% to 36%. So that's a big motivator. And then I've included the nil rate ban personal allowance there. So, you know, you're not expected to know this information. You won't get queried or quizzed on it. Please don't give legal advice. You're not supposed to be giving legal advice. I'm not supposed to be giving legal advice. I'm not a legal practitioner. But these are frequently asked questions, so it's, you know, it's helpful to know them and be aware of them. You've got fantastic giving advisors at the diocese, and there's a national legacy contact email address, which myself and my colleague Helen Simkis pick up. So we're all here to help. If you've got any queries or questions, just ask. You know, there's no such thing as a silly question when it comes to legacies. And equally, if somebody asks you something you don't know the answer, just say, I don't know the answer, sorry. But I'll check in with the diocese, or I'll drop the National Legacy Officer a call or a text and see if they can help me with that answer and get back to you. Okay, back over to you, Sophie, for a recap.
Okay, we're coming into land. This is just a very quick recap for me, just to leave you with the actions. The first is think about a Sunday to designate as Legacy Sunday, ideally the 23rd or the 30th of April, but choose another one if that doesn't work. Use the Sunday morning resources, which will soon be on the website. So that's the orders of service, the preaching materials, the legacy story. Order free online literature via the Carlisle Diocese website so that you can display them prominently, and ideally leave them on display beyond Legacy Sunday, and promote free online wills through Fair Will using the Carlisle Diocese voucher code. So yeah, encourage people within your churches to make use of that. This is very anecdotal, but I was talking to some very, very good friends of mine. I've recently become godparent to their daughter, and they happen to be talking about a will they'd recently written, and I asked them a couple of questions about it, and they said they'd left it via Fair Will, the online will writers, and they said what a good experience it had been. So that was encouraging. So personal recommendation there. Great. I think we're ready to take any more questions.
Thanks, Sophie, and thanks to both Sophie and Eleanor for a really comprehensive presentation. Now, I've been checking the chat throughout, and we've had the one question which Eleanor has kindly answered today, but this is your opportunity. Please do feel free to raise your hand and ask what questions you may have. We have got at least another half hour if we need it, but does anyone have any questions? Susie.
It's really just to echo Elaine's story. We are trying to reorder, and we were hugely surprised that a gentleman who lived really quietly left a proportion of his estate, and we got this intimation that we were getting, and they named the fraction of the estate that we were going to get, and we just thought, well, that's really kind, but he lived so humbly We really didn't expect much money at all. He left us £27,000. We were absolutely blown away, like Elaine, by the figure. This was after lockdown, and so that figure will put at least 25% of the match funding that we need in order to reorder our church. He wasn't in favour of getting rid of the pews. He'd be furious if he thought his money was going to be raised to remove the pews, but his sense of mission and purpose for the church was huge. So we'll designate a certain amount of money that's not going to be for reordering, so that there will be something in his memory. And there's quite a lot of furniture already in his memory in the church, including a Paschal candle that he had ordered, had carved, which is the light of Christ. And it's just, he was a lovely, lovely, lovely man. And he was churchwarden for many years. And I'd never heard of legacies left to churches at that point. So like Elaine, I feel really motivated because we have a number of people who are comfortably off, who've probably made their wills and who love the church. So I think the idea of gentle approach is wonderful. And I will take that approach rather than the push, 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 get it done quickly.
That's great. Thanks so much for that, Susie. Anybody else wish to speak, have a story, any testimony around legacy giving, or a question to ask of Eleanor and Sophie? No. Oh, Beth.
Well, it's just to emphasize the importance of receiving legacies. But St. Elizabeth's, where I work and worship, is one of the poorest parishes in the country. And most people live in debt and little hope of getting out of debt. But given that, their generosity is second to none. And over the last 2 or 3 years, I think we will have received about 4 legacies of £1,000. Now that will be a huge percentage of any money that they have left over to leave to their families. And I'm very humbled by that. And it's equally, it's an equal incentive of a lower sum as it is of the bigger sums. That's all I wanted to say.
Thanks, Beth. I've been amazed at listening to the generosity which has been displayed by people through these stories tonight, through legacy giving. It really is amazing to listen to, and uplifting. I don't think that anybody's got any further questions. And oh, indeed, as Sophie's just said, wonderful stories. So it just leaves me to say thank you for attending tonight. I hope you found it useful. Thank you to Eleanor and to Sophie for their, as I say, comprehensive presentation this evening. My thanks also goes to Beth for leading the prayers as well. Really appreciate it, Beth. If you've got any further queries, please don't hesitate to get in contact with Sophie via the stewardship@carlisle.org.uk. Email. John, you've got your hand up. You're muted. John, you're muted. John, you're still muted. Let's see if I can help you out. Yeah, yeah, go for it.
Right. I'd just like to thank you for all the information you've given us tonight. It's certainly been an interesting interesting eye-openers to what material is available, and it's encouraging to know that we've got all this all this stuff available for us to use. And I'd like to thank you all for putting it all together. Obviously it will take us some time. Take me time just to work through it all in my head and just see where it can all go and things like that. But great, just thank you very much.
That's brilliant.
Thank you, John.
Just to echo what Sophie said previously, the resources on the website should be up and running mid-morning, so please bear with us. We just need to upload the various orders of service and the downloadable film as well. So mid-morning tomorrow they should be available. And as I say, any queries, stewardship@carlislediocese.org.uk is where you'll be able to contact Sophie and John. And with that, it just leaves me to say thank you to you for taking the time to join us this evening. We really do appreciate it.